Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Tze Chun and Mike Weiss's graphic novel, The Fearsome Doctor Fang. I do want to throw this out there. Mike Weiss, according to his bio in here, from Philadelphia in my current home state of Pennsylvania. So that's cool. So The Fearsome Doctor Fang. I really like this graphic novel. I think it's super, super cool. One of the things that really strikes me about this graphic novel actually is a very heavy influence from Alan Moore, particularly The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and Watchmen. So I'm going to talk about some of those connections in this video. So the basic plot of The Fearsome Doctor Fang is we follow these three protagonists. There is Nyland Kelly, who is an Irish-American police officer from San Francisco. His brother is killed quite early in the graphic novel. His brother Patrick, or he thinks that Patrick is killed. In fact, Patrick is not killed. And Nyland does find this out at some point because his brother basically has been sort of kidnapped and has become an unwilling henchman for the villain, Church. Find Church for you. So I'll talk a little bit more about Church in just a second, and I will find him. Oh, Church, where are you? All right, there's Church. That's Church. He's this sort of like nerdy, tech supervillain, basically. He's like a... So this is set in 1904. It is worth noting. But he's like advanced electromagnets and hydropower and all this stuff, right? So he's got like this very sort of steampunky type vibe, like steampunk evil super villain type vibe going on. So there's him. So he's the villain. Alice Lacroix, that's her. She's the second member of this main trio. She is a treasure hunter with questionable loyalties, whose father had been on a quest to find Xanadu, the famous sort of summer palace of Kublai Khan. Basically because there's this massive weapon there. So there's a whole bunch of treasures, and that's really what Alice is interested in. But there's also this ancient super weapon developed by the Khans, called the Dragon's Breath, which apparently can destroy cities, but also can be sort of scaled up for global dominance, destruction, whatever it is. So that's the two of them. We got Nyland Kelly, who's very, very strong, very, very sort of impetuous, not much of a thinker. He's a bit of a Heracles figure from ancient Greek mythology. You've got Alice Lacroix, who is very cunning, very clever, but not necessarily very loyal. She's very much out for herself. And then you have the fearsome Dr. Fang, announcing himself right there. So Fang is an interesting character because he is ostensibly this supervillain, right? He's this Chinese wizard, which actually means that, like Church, he is technologically advanced, right? He's got advanced electronics, and he uses technology to create the illusion of magical powers, basically. And what Nylon and Alice find out fairly quickly is that Fang is in fact not a supervillain. He's not this sort of Fu Manchu type figure that he has built himself up to be. This is in fact a cover story, and he is in fact on the side of, I don't know, law and order or the good or whatever it is. Maybe not law and order as such, but he's on the side of the good. And what he has done basically is sort of made a conscious decision. I am going to build my reputation as a supervillain, and I will use that to disrupt actual villains. So basically he's sort of gone undercover, right? And so the three of them join forces to defeat Church, who is trying to get the Dragon's Breath superweapon from Xanadu for what for most of the graphic novel is purposes unknown. But we later learn that Church's basic scheme is... Okay, so... So Church claims that he is trying to save the world. And this is a slightly convoluted thing, but it's one of the big Alan Moore intertextual elements, right? So he says here, they've made it to Xanadu. They're seeing the Dragon's Breath. That's it right there. Church is about to take control over it because he's more or less got Fang, Nylon, and Alice Lacroix captured. And so what he says here is Shanghai, London, San Francisco, all will burn. Nylon says, what about that crap of you saving the world? Church says, that is exactly my intention. Nylon says, by destroying cities, murdering the innocent? Church says, think bigger. The nations of Europe are close to war, a war that will rage across continents. This is the only way to stop it. So that's above the Dragon's Breath, which is this guy right here. We're seeing this sort of vision of World War I, right? And so basically, what Church's plan is to set off the Dragon's Breath to destroy a number of cities across the globe so that he can, so what he says here is, by uniting the world against a common enemy, the mastermind who caused this destruction, an international villain known as the greatest evil ever known to man, the fearsome Doctor Fang. Oh, what? So that's his plan, right? So basically the plan is, I will destroy a number of cities across the globe. I will blame it on Dr. Fang. Humanity will unite against Dr. Fang rather than having World War I, and everybody will work in community to defeat Dr. Fang. Okay, cool plan, bro. It is in fact Ozymandias's plan from The Watchmen, right? Now, to be clear, I have both read the graphic novel and seen the film version of Watchmen. I've seen the film version multiple times. I think I've just read the graphic novel once. So I'm like, there are some differences, but there's a lot of similarities. I'm more familiar with the film version. So if this is not exactly what happens in the graphic novel, then that's why. But basically, in the film version, at least, of Watchmen, and I think roughly in the graphic novel, Ozymandias's plan is to destroy large portions of humanity, like destroy New York City and whatever it is, and blame it on Dr. Manhattan, basically as a way of ending the Cold War and uniting humanity, the competing sides of sort of NATO, led by the United States, and the Soviet bloc, and the People's Republic of China, etc., etc. Basically getting humanity to give up its ideological differences in the interests of uniting against a common external enemy. This is also a thing that Ronald Reagan had mentioned, I believe, at one point. Like he was like, the best thing that could happen for humanity is if aliens showed up, because then we would all work together against the aliens. Right? Whatever. Reagan was an idiot. Fuck that guy. He did a lot of damage to this country and to the world. Anyway, so this is basically the plan, right? This is Ozymandias's plan, and this is Church's plan. It is essentially the same thing, right? I will unite otherwise squabbling, warring, conflicted humanity by creating a disaster and pinning it on a single villain who then can be sort of the target of united opposition. And in Watchmen, I think the base is in the Arctic. So it is in this very sort of snowy, cold, barren wasteland type environment. In this, it's in northern Mongolia. And so again, we've got this very snowy, barren environment. It's also worth noting that in the film version of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Stephen Norrington's film version, the Moriarty's big secret base at the end of the film is in Mongolia. So, and it's a very sort of, again, cold, frozen Arctic version of Mongolia. So that's another sort of intertext here. We've also got another sort of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen connection, because in the graphic novel, Volume 1 of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the villain is the Doctor, who is very much this Fu Manchu type character. And Fu Manchu, of course, a very long established Asian supervillain, right? He's not in the movie. Is M in the movie, right? But in the graphic novel, Volume 1, the villain is this Chinese supervillain, right? This sort of magician, high-tech, steampunk type fellow. And so the fearsome Dr. Fang is very much sort of an evolution of this character, right? So you've got the original Fu Manchu. Alan Moore gives us the Doctor because apparently, according to the Wikipedia page, it couldn't get the rights to use Fu Manchu as a name. So they just called him the Doctor. And it is Dr. Fu Manchu. It's worth noting in the original. Here we have Dr. Fang. Now, we have, of course, the fact that Fang is Chinese. We have the fact that he's a supervillain, ostensibly, right? Obviously he's not, but the world thinks that he is. He has cultivated that image, that he's very high tech, that he's perceived as a wizard. So we have these connections with Fu Manchu. We also have the mask, the visage of the fearsome Dr. Fang, right? And he has these two fangs that come down from the front of the mask, which are visually evocative of the famous Fu Manchu mustache, right? It has the same type of shape as far as coming down from the lips and being very thin and pointed. So it's visually evocative. And so we have, again, that sort of connection with something that Alan Moore has done, but in this case, reworked. And I think it's interesting that Chun, the sort of primary writer of this, is Chinese American, because I think a lot of the sort of reworking of this Fu Manchu figure into Dr. Fang reflects a kind of reconceptualization and the term that I want has left my brain, reclamation, I guess, of this sort of Fu Manchu type figure, right? Because Fu Manchu has traditionally been created, written, depicted, whatever it is, by white people. And it's engaged in Orientalist stereotypes and anti-Asian racism. And so Chun reworks this figure into Dr. Fang, someone who uses the image of the Chinese supervillain, this Fu Manchu wizard figure, as a cover for actually being on the side of good, right? And of course, the fact that it is a white tech inventor named Church, who is in fact the villain, is no small amount of social commentary in and of itself. But we have this sort of reconceptualization, reimagining of this Asian traditional villain character by a Chinese American author. And I don't know when this, so this came out, copyright 2018. So this is actually pre-COVID, which is an interesting thing because, of course, during the COVID pandemic, largely driven by our fucking idiot president, Donald Trump, there was a substantial upsurge of anti-Asian racism. And so that project of reclaiming stereotypes of Asians, Asian Americans, etc., is a long-standing one for many Asian people, many Asian American people, etc.